The council chamber stretched like a cavern of stars. Light spilled from floating glyphs, casting shifting halos on the obsidian floor. 12 tiers rose in a circle, each holding a different species of the galactic compact serpentine envoys. From Delver, crystalline jurists from Cortel, and the gas-veiled dignitaries of Mnu. At the center, the speaking circle shimmered with a soft pulse, waiting for its next occupant. No one expected the girl from dust-born Earth to take that place. She walked slowly, deliberately. Her footsteps barely echoed over the hum of translation. Fields and scanning drones. No guards accompanied her. No herald announced her name. But the chamber still not because of fear, not even because of reverence, but because her presence made no sense. Earth had been silent for years, forgotten, deemed irrelevant in the restructuring of post-Crimson Accords. The idea that someone from that fractured planet had arrived uninvited wasn't just irregular. It was impossible. Still, she stood there alone. Her dress was no regal robe or council-given garb. It was woven from the bark of iron willows, its threads humming with residual static, a gesture of peace from the jungles of Atraxiv. Around her neck hung a pendant formed of broken console glass, old tech, outdated, untraceable. Her hair was unbound. Her eyes, however, were the most alien thing in the chamber. They didn't shift colors with mood or protocol like the Vraxi. They didn't pulse with inner data streams like the Mazari. They didn't glow with embedded biotech. They were just human, soft, brown, still, and they were watching them all. A counselor from the 7th tier stirred a flushed jelly shape from the Hydrophore Commonwealth. "You are not on the docket." "No," she agreed, and her voice was level. "But you were all expecting me." A chuckle came from the tier above. Dry, bladed, the Jack's envoy, who looked like a carved stone statue until he moved. "We expect attacks. We expect war. We do not expect insolent mammals from unranked sectors." "You expected someone to speak for the Riven Moon's treaty," she said. "I am that voice." The floor glowed beneath her feet. The glyphs in the air flickered language. Protocols sensing. Her genetic structure flashed through invisible scanners. Her name lit up in soft red across 6 tiers, though none dared speak it aloud. She should not have been their dot. She was their dot, and the moment stretched taut. Then the silence cracked. "You are unbonded. You have no sponsor. No species recognition. The treaty cannot be invoked." She turned slightly, toward the being who spoke Delthari, scaled and lavender-skinned, whose fins twitched with subtle insult. "I have no sponsor," she admitted, "but I do have the right." The Jack's counselor leaned forward. "And by what authority do you claim that right, child?" Her hand rose, and uncurled. In her palm lay something small, at first indistinguishable. But as the council's scan fields focused, shapes appeared. A crystalline token. Bent, burned, fractured at one edge. The room reacted instantly. Gas beings shifted nervously. The Hydrophore's gelatin twisted into spirals. The Mazari's faceplate darkened in disbelief. "That's a relic of the lost." "Accord," someone whispered. "That hasn't been seen in 12 planetary cycles," she said. "Correct, impossible," snapped the Vraxi ambassador. "Those were destroyed. I found one," she said. "Or rather, one was entrusted to me by someone you let die on your borders." A shiver ran through the chamber. No one spoke. "So she did. My people never asked to be part of the Galactic Compact. We were surveyed, judged, deemed unworthy. A backwater species with too many wars and too much spirit. So we were left alone." She looked around, and for a while, we believed that was mercy. Her hands clenched softly, until the mining rights came, until the orbiting outposts came, until the bombardments came. "You say the Riven Moon's treaty protects low-tech worlds from annexation, but you let your proxies break that pact when Earth's resistance weakened. You let mercenaries raise our archives. You allowed shell corporations to enslave half our northern hemisphere, all while claiming neutrality." A Mazari light tube flared. "You were neutral," she said, "until one of your own defected." And again, she raised her hand. This time, a second object appeared. A ring, twisted, scorched, but unmistakably council-make. "I was bonded to him. By choice, by blood. He died speaking your language, in the ashes of my city." A counselor hissed. You dare bring a personal grievance into the chamber. This isn't personal, she cut in. This is proof. She held up the fractured relic again. By treaty law, if a representative of a compact nation bonds with an indigenous, their people may claim voice in this chamber if that bonded dies in a contested zone. The clause was ancient, obscure, forgotten by most, but not illegal. You used us, she said, to test weapons, to move freight, to hide dark ops. But we never signed consent. You broke your own codes. Someone murmured, that clause has never been invoked. I invoke it now. The chamber tilted in tension. Then someone stirred in the shadows behind the top tier. A figure stepped out, thin, draped in moonweave, her face cloaked with starlight. The arbiter. Few ever saw her in person. Even fewer heard her speak. You bring pain into this chamber, the arbiter said slowly. But you also bring truth. The compact must answer. No one argued. No one could. The girl breathed slowly, and in that breath, she felt him again, her lost bondmate. His laughter. The way he held her fingers like they were holy things. The blood on his lips. The light in his dying eyes. She didn't cry. Not here. Not where they could use it against her. Let them vote, she said. And so they did. 6 abstained. 4 rejected. 2 voted in favor. She did not win. But the arbiter did not let the moment pass. The votes are noted, the arbiter said. But this chamber shall not forget. The clause is real. The cost is known. Then came the part that stunned even her. The arbiter turned to the girl and bowed. A shallow bow, but deep enough to shake the chamber, because now the record would show. The girl stood. The council listened. The arbiter bowed. Later, alone in the chamber's stillness, a soft step approached her. A woman, tall, slate-gray skin, hair like glimmering wires. Your bondmate was my cousin, she said quietly. I could not speak for you, but I watched. The girl looked at her. I will remember, the woman said, and I will tell others. The girl nodded. And walked away. She didn't win, but they would never forget the day she made them bow. The last echo of her words still rang through the domed hall, but this was not her story. This was about a boy named Aaron, who had never stood before a council, never spoken across light years, never even left the desert ring his people called the ribbon wastes. He was just a sand runner, born to dice-stained hands and bone-dry hope. His family's trade was dust glass, and his dream was to leave the dunes behind someday. That someday came with the fire clouds. They bloomed like inverted suns. His father's caravan vanished under the first blast. The sky tasted like burnt ozone, and the stars never returned. When the ships came, shards of metal shaped like thorns. Aaron was already a shadow, hiding beneath the broken bones of the desert's skeleton trees. And that's when she found him. Not human. Not one of them. Something else. She glided down from a hovering craft cloaked in red light, her face like the night, too symmetrical, too still. No guards, no mask, just her and the wind. You are not what I expected, she said. I didn't ask you to expect anything. Aaron spat, shielding his eyes. You wear the ribbon dyes. You belong to the trade clans. Not anymore. She tilted her head. Then come with me. He laughed. No. She walked away without turning her back. Then die here. But if you come, you'll speak to the ones who burn your sky. She didn't wait. He followed. The ship was too quiet. Aaron had never ridden anything that moved without the sound of wheels or hover rattle. This was silence, dead, cold, and efficient. She didn't speak during the flight. He asked her name once. She didn't answer, but he studied her, the silver under her nails, the glowing veins that pulsed once every few minutes under her jaw. Not like the thorns. Not human either. Something between. He guessed she was a negotiator, or maybe a collector. The first time she looked at him again, it was in orbit. The planet hung below them, a sickle of ash. You're angry, she said. No, Aaron said. I'm not angry. Then what are you? I'm waiting to speak. You promised me a voice. She met his eyes then. I promised you an audience. Whether they listen is not mine to command. The hall was built of echo metal and memory light. Aaron felt his breath shift against 100 other versions of himself. As they walked toward the center, the crowd sat in floating disc stall beings, scaled diplomats, void-eyed creatures. And something that might have once been a tree. The girl no. The woman walked beside him until the central spire. Then she stopped. He turned. Aren't you coming? No. I am not allowed. I am a nullburn. What's that supposed to mean? I am of no house, no planet, no standing. I am born of stasis and bred for silence. They only listened to you because I delivered you. I never asked you to, yet I did. Now go, speak. Aaron stood alone. He didn't know the language, but he didn't need to. A machine hovered beside him, a glowing orb of gold and black. Your words, it said, will be transmuted. He took a breath. You killed my people. No one moved. You didn't send soldiers. You sent machines. We never even saw your faces. You lit the skies, and you called it a warning. A ripple passed through the rings. One of the council members, a being with 6 translucent arms and eyes like whirlpools, leaned forward. The sector was deemed volatile. My father was volatile. His sand caravans were threats. No. But the conflict with your neighbor moons created instability. And your solution was fire from above. The being paused. We offered relocation. To who? To the dead. No answer. Iron's hands were shaking. He'd practiced speeches. On the flight. Rehearsed lines in his mind. None of them came out. Only this. My people are gone. Our clans will be remembered only by the color of their glass and the taste of their smoke. You erased them. So I ask you this, are you satisfied? A second voice, sharp and clicking like stones, answered. Your planet was not part of the treaty orbitals. You had no alliances, no protectorates. We didn't need protection. We had peace, until you burned it. Another voice, deeper. What do you want, Sandborn? And there it was. The question. He didn't want money, or ships, or power. He wanted memory. I want you to say their names. The translator orb faltered. I want every name you burned to be spoken here by you, recorded in your archives, sang into your monuments. I want our ghosts to haunt your laws. You ask for shame. I ask for truth. Silence. And then against all sense of expectation the whirlpool-eyed one shifted, lowered its body. A bow. Others followed. One by one. The entire hall. They bowed. Later, in the quiet of the corridor, she waited. You did it, she said. He sat beside her. I didn't think they would. They rarely do. Not for one voice. I guess I wasn't just one. No, she said. Turning to him, you carried thousands. He looked at her now with less suspicion, more wonder. What about you? Why help me? She looked at the stars. Because I was made not to care. And then I did. They didn't kiss that day. That came later on a ship made of wind glass and powered by silence, drifting through the orbit of a rebuilt moon. It was not love at first sight. It was love that arrived like a second sunrise, unexpected, but exactly what the world needed. A lone star glade floats within the ruins of old empire. Vines curve along broken pillars. Phosphor blossoms bloom in dusty air. Beneath one tree and its light stands Sci-Fi, once a court gardener in the imperial palace, now resistance's secret envoy. Her hair is dark as oil and tied with wildflower vines. Her uniform is torn, stained with soil. The ruins are calm. To calm. 3 imperial generals approach information. Dusker, Fangren, Iravali, human-like in silhouette, but with metallic sheen to their armor, cold precision to their speech. They have come to crush the rebellion that blooms around Sci-Fi, not yet knowing its seed is her alone. Dusker speaks first, voice like grinding gears. Gardener envoy, you stand outside the council chamber. You brandish no relics, no burning words. Why do we not arrest you? Sci-Fi breathes in dust and remembrance. My arms grow flowers, generals not weapons. I come for peace. Fangren laughs. Flowers don't stop cannon fire. No, Sci-Fi says, but they can remind generals what grows beyond. Conquest. She steps forward. Seam rivet tears beneath vine scars. I ask not for surrender. I ask for soil. Rivalries' eyes narrow. Soil. Soil enough to grow one seed. Just one. Human-made. Resistant species. I wish it planted at your headquarters. Why? Dusker scoffs. To mock us with greenery while we fight. Sci-Fi smiles faint. No. To grow something beautiful from ashes. To show you that even among your ranks, life can choose peace. They exchange glances, discipline versus disruption. Dusker signals, bring your seed. She extends a small tube. Inside, a succulent leaf folded around cultured soil. Alive still. Fangren eyes it. You're risking it all on one leaf. I risked far more to save this one. She meets his gaze. I planted it myself. The generals step to leave. We will not feed your rebellion, Iravali says. Sepp Hein moves beside them. Neither do I only tend. The generals pause. Sephine's resolve is softer than metal but unbreakable. 3 days later, Safini is summoned. Dusty chamber beneath broken spire. There she kneels, petals drooping from her hair. The generals stand above her, 3 statues in dark steel. Dusker begins. You trespass into forbidden territory. Fangren continues. You speak of growth while we mobilize fleets. Iravali adds. We tired of diplomats who threaten with speech. Safini answers. I grow trust instead. A sprout emerges in her palm. The leaf has rooted. Small, green, fragile. Silence. Dusker crouches, studies the sprout. You made that grow with words. She nods. With trust, soil and patience. Fangren steps forward. Show me. She places the sprout on the cracked marble, gently moves dust aside and touches its base. Immediately, the leaf brightens. Soil changes, not just plants. She says softly, soils heal. They resist toxins. Iravali kneels now. We've felt nothing from you before, only loss. But this plant, it moves us. Double quotes. Dusker looks at her. What do you want? Safini breathes. Not rebellion. Peace. Fangren kneels. For peace, then, Iravali joins, and soil for planting. One by one, they bow, not before generals, but before life. Later, in twilight, the generals escort Safini through the ruins transformed. Now wet soil beds bloom. Small green shoots reflect their footsteps. They've granted her space to plant more. In quiet moments, Safini teaches Iravali to coax seedlings from ash. Fangren watches her work, fingers brushing over roots unconsciously. Dusker studies soil chemistry, learning life from the gardener's patience. Sepp Hein watches them too, longing in small smiles, the brush of desert wind across her cheek. One evening, Dusker holds her hand steady over a sprout. Soil spills between them. Ladies like you make peace possible, he says softly. Her fingers waver but remain. You make it grow. Their silence blooms into something deeper, shared responsibility for something that lives. In the council city, generals report, a gardener did more to heal than speech ever could. Diplomats whisper of Sephine's seed. Generals kneeling too. Soil before war, and one general speaks her name to often in awe. Safini remains humble, earth-stained dress, gentle smile, but in her chest, something blossoms too. Love for a general who unlearned destruction before his eyes, for a soldier who surrendered to life. The twin suns bled over the marble floor of the exercise chamber, streaking gold and crimson across the faces of the accused. Zalir didn't flinch. He knelt, not for show, but because he'd already lost everything. The council's judgment could no longer hurt him more than her silence had. Urea hadn't spoken to him since the trial began. She stood across the chamber, veiled in ceremonial black, her body still like the star crystal sculptures on the archive steps. Zalir wished she'd move, a flicker of her hand, a twitch of her jaw, something to tell him she remembered, that she still loved him. But love had no voice here. The exarchs, 12 in total, hovered in their suspension seats, golden symbols pulsing above their heads. Truth, honor, preservation, hypocrisy. They ruled not with justice, but with politics wrapped in ritual. Zalir had broken their oldest law. He had bonded without permission to her, a Terran born. And worse, one of them. I ask one last time, the central exarch intoned, its voice crystalline and cold. Do you deny the charge of oath bond? Without council oversight, Zalir looked up. The symbol above the exarch's head glowed for order, not truth. He swallowed. I do not deny it. Gasps rippled through the amphitheater. Even Urea's fingers twitched. The exarch's symbol brightened. Then by this admission, you have betrayed the right of accord, and for that, wait. The word cut through the room like blade to glass. Everyone turned. Uriah stepped forward. I invoke the concord of parallax, the exarch's light. Faltered. That law hasn't been invoked into 100 cycles. One hissed. It is still law. Uriah said, and he has not stood alone. We bonded by heartfire, not politics, by choice, not control. You break your lineage oath. By defending him, the central exarch warned. I sever it, she said. Right now, if this council cannot see that love is not a rebellion, then let me be your first rebel. Zalir couldn't breathe. He'd expected punishment, silence, maybe even exile. But not this. The exarchs turned their glow inward, whispering. Through quantum pulses and legal matrices no one could hear. Uriah walked to him, not in defiance, not in fear, but in certainty. You're not alone anymore, she said, crouching beside him. He shook his head. You gave up everything. She cupped his face, her palm trembling now. Only what was never mine to begin with, the council's. Murmur faded to silence. And then the symbol above the central exarch shifted. From order to surrender. They were no longer judged. They were watched. The new law hadn't been made official, but it had been born, right here, between one kneeling oath breaker and a woman who walked through fire to meet him, and the suns above them bore witness. The shuttle's descent was quiet, a smooth glide across the rippling clouds of HFY, the neutral moon where no flags flew and no empires dared claim ownership. Zalir sat beside Uriah, watching her braid a silver thread into her hair. It shimmered, like starlight in her obsidian locks, a subtle defiance to the uniform still folded in her lap, the last remnant of her council station. You could go back, he said softly. They'd let you. After all this, Uriah glanced at him, eyes heavy with something beyond sorrow, something older. And leave you behind? When we stood trial together? No. Besides, the council has changed. It only doesn't know it yet. Zalir offered her a half smile. You're not afraid. She reached over, took his hand. Of the stars? Never, only of dying before I've loved you enough. The shuttle touched down in the clearing below the archive spires. These towers weren't for bureaucrats or politicians. They belonged to the librarians of HFY, keepers of pre-council history, protectors of forbidden lore. Here, in the ancient records, Uriah hoped to find proof that their love wasn't an anomaly, that others had defied, that others had survived. The head librarian was not what Zalir expected. They were short, barely to Uriah's shoulder, draped in a cloak made of woven sunlight and blue rain. Their voice was dry and precise, like dust being poured into a scale. You are the council's castaway, they said, nodding to Uriah. And you the soldier who knelt. You wish to see the before times. We seek precedent, Uriah said. For our bond. Precedent. The librarian raised a brow. Child, the stars were forged from union. But no law grants you ease. Only knowledge. Come. They were led through catacombs of soundless halls, where coded light moved like water across black stone. It wasn't until they reached the deepest chamber that the librarian stopped. This, they said, is the archive of the forgotten. Here lie the oaths no longer honored, the names scrubbed from council memory, the stories that hurt too much to remember. Uriah stepped forward. Her fingers hovered over a crystal dot. It flared at her touch. The room around them vanished. In its place, a vision. A woman, radiant with copper skin and twin halos above her brows, standing before a tribunal, her arms wrapped protectively around. A pale, dying Terran male. Her voice echoed across stars. He is mine. I am his. Your laws are written in ink. Ours is written in blood. Another memory to men, one scaled in jade, the other faceless and made of shadow. Holding hands as they fled a battlefield littered with banners. Another, a child born of twin worlds, speaking both languages at once, her tears golden, her smile defiant. They stood in silence as the visions faded. You see, the librarian said, love always comes before law. The question is not whether you are alone. It is whether you will fight to be remembered. Zalir looked at Uriah, then at the librarian. We want the galaxy to remember. Then you must choose your battlefield. They chose the Agra of Moran, the speaker's quadrant, a public sphere broadcast to billions. No council approval required. When they stepped onto the dais, the crowd was silent. Some recognized her, others whispered Zalir's name. 1,000. Drones hovered, streaming live to every system. Urea did not read from a tablet. She did not bow. She did not ask permission. The council judged us, she began, for loving without sanction. But we have seen the archive of the forgotten. We have seen those erased for the same crime. Zalir took her hand. We will not be forgotten, and neither will they. She lifted their joined hands. From this day forward, let no union be hidden. Let no oath be shamed. Let love speak louder than tradition. Let memory defy silence. And then they kissed before the stars, before the crowds, before the frightened hearts watching in secret, longing to be brave. Somewhere on a distant world, a child with two mothers wept. On another, a warrior held her mechanic closer. And in the council chamber, 12 exarchs stared at a symbol that refused to shift from surrender. Weeks passed. The movement spread. Others came forward. Old lovers exiled. Forbidden pairings. Secret marriages. Hidden children. Each voice added to the wave. And slowly, without decree or command, the culture began. Two shifters, Zalir and Urea, did not return to politics. They stayed on HFY, where they taught the archive stories to travelers. Their bond, once judged, became the standard others measured courage against. One morning, under the twin suns, Zalir looked over the cliff where the sea branches danced and whispered. They bowed, not because we forced them, but because we made it beautiful to do so. Urea kissed his cheek, and the stars were silent no more.